That's right as recording. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new edition of Pod By The BAE. I'm your host, Nathan Bond. Joined alongside me, Seth, Varnadore, Robert Steeg. Guys, there was a football game played.
There wasn't.
I assure you of that.
listen, Steeg, I want credit for watching that whole game. So it has.
That was a tough hang for 3 hours, man. All right, give us a break. But first and ultimately foremost, I hope everybody is okay. I know a lot of folks in the Discord were without power. I know some got them back as earlier this afternoon on Tuesday. I spoke to someone today who is still without power out in Thanona Sassa. So still a lot of cleanup to be done. A lot of trees down in our neighborhood. Thankfully, the only thing that really happened to us was we lost power for 4 days. Seth, I know you hightailed it out of there after.
I learned my lesson after the last one.
After Helene kind of wrecked shop a little bit. Steve, you also evacuated, but could have been way worse. And I'm sure a lot of people still have it way worse. But I mean, for the three of us on this here podcast, probably got out relatively scot-free comparatively.
Unbelievably, for where the projected pass, like one of the projected paths was lit. The eye was like over my house. I would send it to my dad and be like, "There's my house." Right. So I was like, and then it moved, and my dad was like, "Well, now it's on my house." So like, great. And then it ended up going even further south. So yeah, man, it could have been really bad. Like we just moved into this, my beautiful fireplace rental here. It's not that far from where I live. So we were like, did we spend a week moving into here just to get this thing blown over too? So that would have been tough. So, but yeah, so what we thought it was going to be, I know we got really lucky, really blessed. I know other people didn't get as lucky. So hopefully all our listeners made it out all right. And everybody can kind of get back to normal here pretty soon. But I know like in our county, we still have people with no power, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it was not a fun last few days, that's for sure. We went down, we were upstairs, and then right around 8:30, I was like, all right, let's go downstairs. The wind's really starting to pick up. So we go downstairs at 8:30, precisely at 8:34, the power goes out. So we didn't even get to enjoy the downstairs before the power went out. Came back on like 10 minutes later, and then there was just a loud boop.
Oof.
And that was it. Shout out to the in-laws for housing the four of us. They only lost power for about 11 hours in Newport Richey. So we went up there and hung out for a few days. But could have been a lot worse. I guess moving on to somehow more depressing news. I'm just kidding. Your South Florida Bulls lost yet again, this time 21-3 in a venue adjusted, seemingly coincidental, wink, wink, that the team moved to Orlando earlier this week, and then the team ended up playing in Orlando this past week. I'm sure that was not at the top of people's minds when that happened. So they lose to Memphis 21-3. Did not look pretty in the first quarter. The offense without starting quarterback Byrum Brown was inept for most of the day. I don't know if you guys maybe there's no correlation to it, but 6 drops, 2 fumbles. Was it perhaps the team was not focused because there were other things going on in their lives over the last week?
Oh, no, that can't be it, Nathan. That can't be it, buddy. No, they were focused on football. They didn't have to worry about their homes and their dorms and their possessions and everything that they left behind. No.
Yeah. And it was interesting. Like, that's not even an angle I thought about much and Golish brought it up in the post game, just like how many of the guys are local and guys that are like, hey, like, so I mean, there's guys on the team that have children. There's guys on the team that have pets. There's guys on the team that probably are like a primary caretaker for a grandmother or, something like that lives close. And so hearing Golish kind of describe guys asking him like, hey, that's cool. We're going to Orlando. What am I supposed to do with my dog? What am I supposed to do with my grandmother? Like those kind of things. And you could tell it certainly seemed as if those kind of issues would have led you to believe that they didn't really want. And this is, I'm going to say this without, I thought just out front, I thought they played really hard the full game. There wasn't any effort issues. Like they played hard. So, saying that it seemed like they didn't want to play the game before the game had nothing to do with their effort. I thought they played extremely hard the entire game. Defense played great. Offense just was out of sync a little bit. Couldn't run the ball. And I think Memphis is not is better on defense than they've been. So, but yeah, man, it certainly seemed like all indications were that they would much rather have not played that game and pushed it out to later, and that the old conference did not oblige those requests.
Yeah. I guess a week ago Tuesday, we had a Zoom press conference with Alex Golish, and just the vibes. You never flat out said it, but the vibes were kind of off about like him really like obviously players want to play, coaches want to coach, yada yada yada. But there were definitely bigger things at hand and at stake, especially at that time on Tuesday when the track seemed a lot more dangerous for the Tampa Bay area. So I think he kind of figured when they had to evacuate to Orlando, like, man, this is the juice is not worth the squeeze sort of thing. And it kind of bore out in that regard. Again, effort was not an issue. The defense was phenomenal. We'll get into kind of some of the numbers here shortly. But, I mean, after the game, I flat out asked Golish, like, at what point during the week were you just kind of like, was there a point or drop dead point of, all right, we're just not going to play this game? What would have to happen? And he flat out said when the conference says you're playing the game, you play the game. So now they're in Orlando. They just go to Camping World. Memphis flies into Orlando, flies back out. Totally fine, whatever. But at like some point, you've got to kind of draw the line of like USF lost money on this game. There's no way the conference. I'd be shocked if the conference put up money for this game.
You lose a primetime TV spot.
Relegated to ESPN Plus.
There's the upside. The only upside from the conference is like, okay, USF's they lost to Tulane. They're out of the running. We want Memphis to have a chance. They beat Florida State. Maybe they'll have a chance to make the playoff. That's like the only that's the only upside in my mind for the conference is looking. All right, well, we're worrying more about Memphis, but man, like asking people to drive and use gas and all that kind of stuff. It was like, I mean, they're just now getting gas around here, so it was bizarre. I didn't feel like there wasn't a lot of thought put into it besides they can play in Orlando.
Yeah. I've been very open and honest about this. The optics from start to finish on this game were awful. Just there is no, aside from the fact that you have to, there is no reason that you should have played this game. The conference dictating that the game needed to be played for tiebreaker purposes, for whatever reasons, I understand completely. And again, this is a $1 billion business that we're talking about. So the idea of just moving things around seems asinine, but realistically, if you were giving up, if USF and Memphis technically were both giving up a prime time game just to play at 3:30 on a Saturday in another city, like it doesn't, that doesn't compute. That doesn't make sense to me, that you just played this game just because it was the game on the schedule this week, when you could. We've done it in the past. We did it in 2020. You can rearrange things. Sure, it's not the precedence you wanted to set, but you can do it. And that's the frustrating part on my side, is you already moved it back a day. You already had to inconvenience two full teams of this. Why can't you just figure out another time and maybe inconvenience another team to do so? Like it was so frustrating, the fact that this game happened. I don't care that USF lost. USF could have won 21-3, and I would have been like, this was still stupid to do. Like, that's paramount. I mean, we would have been like, ha ha ha, we beat you with like short staff and all this other stuff, but also like the game shouldn't have happened. Like, we shouldn't have had to have that game played.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, shout out to 3,000 fans that made it out there. I don't know where you found the gas, but kudos to you, because it was sparse. I still need to get gas in my car, so
it was sparse. I mean, I was in Orlando. It was getting sparse in Orlando. Like, it was, we were able to find some, like, but by the time we were getting ready to leave, there wasn't any. So it was. I mean, it's not like it was abundant anywhere. So. Yeah.
So like that, just whatever. It's done. It's over with. Moving actually to the context of the game.
Could have just canceled the Tulsa game.
Yeah,
Memphis had a bye when USF plays Tulsa. Just cancel the Tulsa game and make USF Memphis play if you need
to. Byrum Brown misses the game. ESPN reports early Saturday. He's a game time decision. This man, the games, I guess we could call it gamesmanship by USF. Byrum Brown, first one off the bus. No crutches. So I was like, all right, maybe. Pre-game warm-ups on crutches, not playing.
Yeah.
Cover Three's Bud Elliott on Tuesday's podcast basically said Byrum Brown's got a broken bone in his leg. I reported to the $25 a month and up crowd on Saturday. Byrum's dealing with a 4 to 6 week injury. All right. Don't anticipate him playing versus UAB. All the coach speak. Alex Golish was great at that. Again, on Tuesday, he was out there practicing. It's really tough for him to be him. You don't really know how healthy he is, and yada, yada, yada. Don't anticipate him for the next 2 to 3 weeks at minimum. We're already essentially 2.5 weeks into the 4 to 6 week territory. There's another bye week coming up that could help out. Again, real weird schedule. 5 games in September, 2 in October, 5 in November. Super strange how the schedule played out this year, but also really convenient timing that you've got basically 2 bye weeks in the time frame that Byrum Brown's been hurt. Also, it helps when the 2 teams that you're playing, we'll discuss UAB here in a moment, and FAU are kind of ass. So it definitely helps that he could miss a month, but really only miss 2 games. So definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. Bryce Archie starts in Brown's place, goes 22 of 41, 234 yards, and an interception. He was not helped out by his wide receivers
or his running game.
A paltry 15 carries for 29 yards. from the running backs is not going to do it. 6 drops. Wide receivers not going to do it. The 2 fumbles, which were kind of crushing, especially one that led to a defensive score that really put the game away. You can't have those mistakes and expect to win with a backup quarterback. You can't run the ball that poorly and expect to win. Golish kind of laid it out on Tuesday during his press conference. Offensive line hasn't been great. We're trying to find the best 5 to go out there. The tight ends have not been good at blocking, run blocking this season, and it showed up. They've got to figure it out. And he seemed perturbed that through 6 games, this is kind of what the front of the offensive line tight end room has produced so far. It was kind of expected, kind of after the last month or so, that this is just who this team is. So now you've got to figure out a way around that. And Seth, in the year of our Lord 2024, if you're not dotting people up like Tom Brady, you better be able to move around in the pocket. And Bryce Archie has not shown that he can do that.
Well, it's kind of a right. It's kind of a chicken and the egg a little bit too, in terms of like you can be pretty good. It's like, all right, dot people up or have really good receivers that are getting really open, or you need to be additive in the run game, right? Like, and he was not, and I think his backup might be. So I would be interested to see if that help. Anytime the quarterback can run, it just adds just a little bit extra, especially if your offensive line is not very good. You can read a guy instead of having to block a guy. All that kind of stuff. You can do it with the RPO as well, but really in like the run game stuff, having the quarterback that can run makes it easier in your offensive line, because then you can play option football now. And option football, you don't have to have the best offensive line if you make correct reads and you scheme it up right, which I think they do a pretty good job of scheming stuff up. If you get a guy that can run and make the right reads, then you can kind of hide your offensive line a little bit, which it seems like I didn't hear. I wasn't able to listen to Golish's press conference yet today. So he talked about the offensive line.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Even without knowing that, it seems as if they know, because we've talked about this before. The deep attempts are way down this year compared to typically across Golish's career as offensive play caller. It's around 20% of the passes are 20 plus yards. This year, I think it's like closer to 14, which is a pretty big drop in terms of attempts, and a lot more intermediate attempts that he usually does. So it's you're not getting those big explosive plays. That could be a function of your receivers, or it could be a function, I think, more of lack of protection. But I thought, interestingly enough, they protected pretty good against Memphis. I think Memphis was more determined to stop the run, because that's really what kind of this offense, this version of the Baylor offense, is really predicated on running first and then using that to get you in advantageous pass situations when you try to stop the run. If you can stop the run without having – the key to killing this offense is if you can stop the run with a light box. If you don't have to load up the box to stop the run, this offense, it makes it really, really hard, which it would for every offense, but this one especially, because it's predicated on we're going to run the ball. Now you load up the box. Now we have receivers in space one-on-one with a lot of option routes. You can't be right. Or you want to protect against the pass, we can run the ball at you. So when you can stop the run with like 5-6 guys in the box, it really, really, really hurts this offense, which it seemed like Memphis was able to do a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned the deep shots. 20-plus yards down the field. Byrum Brown had 14 attempts, and Bryce Archie has 10 attempts. So about 15% of his throws for Bryce have been 20 or more yards down the field, and then that drops down to 10.6. So like hovering around like 12, 13% in this offense is not what you want to see. Now is the offensive line is not good enough? Are the wide receivers not good enough to get open? It's probably a bit of both. Obviously, Byrum, the ones that always stand out, the 3 misses at Alabama. But eventually, like, he's been good enough to eventually hit those. He just hasn't either had the time or the wide receivers capable of getting open.
Man, I can't believe it's cut in half for Byrum this year in terms of those deep attempts.
So it's tough, especially the last 3 weeks. You have not been able to run the ball at all, and it's definitely shown up in the numbers. I mean, you got a backup quarterback and you can't run the ball. It's really freaking hard to win a game, especially when you're running. Your quarterback is not a running threat at all, which kind of leads us to the next thing. Asked Alex Bullish after the game on Saturday. On Saturday, did you ever consider kind of bringing Izzy Carter in, who presents a different issue, who's very athletic, regardless if he can read a defense or not, to kind of change some things up and give Memphis a different kind of look, kind of similar to Byrum. Izzy's, I think, a lot faster running wise than Byrum Brown. It's just a different kind of runner. And he said it didn't really feel like the game got away from them enough for that to predicate a change. Okay, but you're not really moving the ball, so why not? And if for 2 weeks Bryce has been the guy getting the snaps, and that all indications appear to be he's been the QB1 for the last couple weeks, then I get it. Seth, what do you make of not even seeing Izzy? I mean, he lined up as a wide receiver last season, so it's not like they're afraid to trot him out there. But what do you make of that?
I don't know. I think you mentioned something in the Discord about you may want to give a guy his first reps in like a softer landing spot. Like, and there could be some of that. It could be, hey man, Bryce Archie's earned his opportunity. Let him have the full game, see what he can do. And now you get a better feeling for what he can bring. And yeah, I don't know. They also weren't on the field very much, so it's one of those things where, like, okay, yeah, we'll get him in, but when you're in the game and you're going 3 and out so often, it's like, okay, we just got to get a rhythm. Like, let's just keep going, get a rhythm, and it just never seemed to happen. So it could have just got caught up in kind of what was happening, but it also maybe it wasn't the best moment. Like the tumultuousness of the week, like how much practice did they get in last week? Like real good practice. They moved, but who knows? So maybe it just was a bad spot, and he'll have a chance to come in and play in other situations. But I don't know. I think Memphis, I'm just looking at some numbers. I think if you take out some of last year's prior stuff, like they've been pretty good on defense this year. So I think they're a little bit better than maybe a lot of us anticipated from, like the last 5 years of watching Memphis football. Like their defense has been pretty bad. It looks like this year they're a little bit better. So maybe they just felt like, it's not the best spot, for him to come in, and they just never could catch a rhythm or have, a real good plan. That's why sometimes it's good to have these things kind of planned out. All right, he's going to take the 4th series, or just because it eliminates a lot of those kind of situations.
Yep. 14 drives for USF. They had the ball for just over 18 minutes. Not ideal. I think. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including the 2 fumbles, 7, basically 3 and outs. Both fumbles come on the first play of each drive. and then 5 other true 3-and-outs. One that got you negative 12 yards, which is less than ideal. After a missed field goal, you go 3 plays and you lose 12 yards. So that's a tough way to play. Abdur-Rahman Yassin did not play at all. Still unsure why. Who knows? Maybe he'll play this week. The offense just was stagnant. I mean, obviously, I think the most glaring thing is the 6 drops were just, some of them were just at quite possibly the worst possible time. I think the first one, the Josh Hardman drop, was absolutely brutal on the first drive, and it kind of killed anything for them. We'll see what happens on Saturday with a little bit more normal atmosphere, hopefully. I do know homecoming. It was supposed to be homecoming week, not happening this week. Groundbreaking has been moved as well. Just a regular old week that's been moved to it'll be the Navy week will be homecoming plus the groundbreaking plus salute the service. Here we are. On the flip side of things, I do want to shout out this USF defense was freaking phenomenal. All right,
Yeah.
like they gave up 14 points against a Memphis team that has one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. All right. I kind of did the numbers prior to coming on here tonight. So they scored 2 touchdowns on their first 3 possessions. So these are the first quarter possessions. 9 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 3-and-out. That's good. 3 plays, 33 yards, touchdown. That was after a fumble. And then 8 plays, 67 yards, missed field goal. So in the first quarter drives, 23 plays, 184 yards, 14 points, 8 yards per play. The second through basically the rest of the game, they ran 50 plays, 184 yards. That's 3.68 yards per play and gave up nothing. And the 2 touchdowns for Memphis, they just schemed the crap out of USF on those 2 plays, and they got really nothing else. They ran like a really nice pick play, wheel route, slot receiver takes the wheel. Jalen Shuler, I think, was probably supposed to stay inside with the slant. He takes the wheel route, and now you have a linebacker coming off a hyperextended knee, chasing a wide receiver on a wheel route. That's just easy pitch and catch. Really nice play design on the second touchdown for Memphis, where it kind of close to the goal line. They run a pump fake, basically pump screen to the left side. Everybody flows left, and then Seth Hennigan rolls out to the right, and now he's got DJ Harris on a running back, a spitting running back. He's like a snake or like a camel. He likes to spit on people, but easy pitch and catch touchdown. And I mean that was essentially it. That's all Memphis was able to do the entirety of the game. So I know I absolutely crapped on this defense. That for 1 week at least, they were very, very good for essentially 4 quarters, which was probably the first time they've done that this season.
Yeah, for all 4 quarters. I think at times, and Golish talked about it today at his press conference, and we love when a coach says that the team isn't executing, because it's either the harbinger of death or it's saying the quiet part not out loud. And I think we know it's the quiet part not out loud. At times, when the wheels are spinning on this USF team, you can see what it's capable of on offense and defense and special teams. You know, and I don't want to piecemeal this together to make it sound, you know, Jeff Scott-esque of, you know, if we only did this, if we only did that, blah, blah, blah. but you can see the pieces of why the team is being coached this certain way. And when it's able to work, why it works on offense and on defense. And the other side of that is when it doesn't work, you see what it happens. And that was the Tulane game. You know, when things are just, when the offense can't get going, the defense can't get a rest. And when the defense can't get a rest, they start playing sloppy because they had to play so aggressively. And then you just basically get hit by a bag of nails for 60 minutes. But then you look at times where the offense can, execute properly. Games like Southern Miss, games like Bethune-Cookman, Rice, going back to last season. You get at Charlotte, you get the bits and pieces of, okay, when the offense can get into that rhythm and they can execute the plays that they need to execute, the offense looks good. And that gives the defense time to make adjustments, to catch a breather, to substitute properly, to get the proper knowledge of the opposing offense in. And it starts to work. And that's the frustrating part, is like, you are finally starting to get pieces of it against Miami. And Miami being the tall task that it was with Cam Ward and ball of nails defense, it sucked because like you did really, really well. You executed to your game plan almost perfectly for the first half. And then you started to not execute properly, and the other team was obviously more talented than you. And so it fell off the wagon. And then last week, the week before, Byrum Brown gets hurt. The wheels start falling off the wagon again. This past week, you're without your starting quarterback. That limits your offense. That limits the capabilities and the running and everything like that. So it's, again, not making excuses. We thought they would be 2-4. We wanted them to perform better than what they had been doing, but this isn't broken. Like this is, I want to say it, but I can't say it on Pod by the BAE. I'm sorry. Subscribe to the Patreon exclusive podcast if you want to hear me say it. There's a reason why it's not fully working right now, and you can see it if you take off the doom glasses for a second.
I'm interested to hear what Steeg, what the idea, what Steeg has to say in the Ponderosa here.
Yeah. So subscribe to the Ponderosa if you want to hear Steeg kind of say the quiet part out loud for this coaching staff, and get news about Byrum Brown 3 days before anybody else.
Hey, I saw we were a source for one of the gambling websites for Byrum Brown being out for a while.
Let's go. Look at us. How about it? Moving on from this game, last bow, and then Steve, you mentioned basically we figured this team would be 2-4. I thought the Tulane game would be this game, like the 21-3 type of just kind of meh. I thought Memphis was gonna just run roughshod over this. So kind of comes out in the wash. These were your 6 hardest games. The back half is fairly easy outside of Navy, who look awesome again, which shout out to them. Love that for them. Hate that for us. But moving toward UAB, they are 1-5. They are on a backup quarterback who put nicely, a checkered past. And that is like the nicest way I can say that legally. They got spanked by Army 44-10 last week.
Not the best transition.
No. Well, he probably should have gone to the Army. He needs some order in his life. He needs a drill sergeant in his life. And then the week prior, Tulane put 7. So, it could be worse, It could be worse, USF fans. You could have had Tulane put 70 on you. And they probably could have named their number that day if they really wanted to. I feel like they named their number against UAB. And then the week prior to that, Navy runs through them. Arkansas the week prior to that. And then UL Monroe, who Alex Golish said on Tuesday's press conference they played a Monroe team that apparently is better than most people thought. So, a bit surprising. I don't know if this is a masked 1-5 because they played really good teams, or this is just a completely terrible team.
They've super quit.
It seems like they've super quit. And if I had to play Navy and Army and Tulane 3 straight weeks, I'd super quit as well, because those are one of the 3 best teams on your schedule. And then leading up to that, you played Arkansas, who just knocked off Tennessee. So, like, there has not been a break for this UAB team. But also, you have Trent Dilfer as your head coach. So, like,
seems to be going poorly.
Things have not gone great for the UAB
Fighting Dilfs
team. He wishes he was a Dilf. This could be a get right game for USF as the kind of springboard to the rest of the season. I am curious how this offense is going to put up 20 plus points with Bryce Archie at quarterback. I don't see it happening at all unless they just pull out all of the flea flickers, all of the wide. Like, they've got to get really creative to score points. And I think we've learned the indication that you're doing trick plays to score points is because you can't beat a team straight up. Saw it against Miami. We kind of figured that was going to happen. And then, the bad teams usually have to do this to try to compete with better teams. If USF does not run the ball as well as Tulane, Army, and Navy, so the thing that they did really well against UAB, they're not going to be able to accomplish. The thing that you have going for you is they have not had a break in 3 weeks. So they were triple to death 2 of the last 3 weeks. That's probably why the line opened USF -13, which that's a big number to give a team who can't move the ball.
Yeah. Well, this UAB team has seemingly quit. Like, you mentioned Bud Elliott earlier. I heard him talking on the Cover 3 podcast about, because he watches a ton of games because he's a degenerate gambler. He was talking about, I'm pretty sure he was talking about UAB and Tulane, and he's like, you got 70 put up on you and you got guys laughing on the sideline. Like, then this was after Dilfer's comments about, come on, this is in Alabama. And the post-game press conference, that kind of stuff was followed up by a 70, Tulane coming out putting 70 on you, and then Army coming out and had a good feeling that might happen because UAB, I don't know, I guess in Tennessee high school people don't run the option very often because that Davis quarterback has no clue how to stop the option. So,
no, apparently not.
You can see like what they were running. It was like, this guy has no idea how to stop the option. So that one, you can see that one coming a little bit. But USF put you get a little running quarterback, run a little option of your own. They have no clue how to stop it. So that'd be cool. But yeah, I think the number is just because more the UAB is so bad that I think they quit. They've quit a little bit. They're on their backup quarterback, and their offense has not been great. I'm interested to talk a little bit more into the numbers here if we get into the Ponderosas. Some of the USF offensive numbers are shocking.
Yeah, not good. Not a good shocking, I would assume.
No.
Looks like my damn shirt on College Football Insiders right now over here.
Yeah, it's not great. So this game Saturday, 3:30, ESPN Plus, at home. It essentially. Here's the thing: I don't care about the spread. If you can't win this game, brother, we've done a lot to try to mitigate and stem the tide of the shine wearing off Alex Golesh and this coaching staff.
Total
You don't beat
momentum
UAB.
erasure.
Yeah, you don't beat UAB after they put up 50 on you and punked you, and then they're coming back with just a god awful team. We're not miracle workers over here. All right, like we can only do so much.
I'll say it next week on Pod By The BAE. If we lose, I'll say it. I'll say it.
Oh,
I'll do it. I'll be the one. I'll be the bad guy.
Well, it's got to be someone else than me. Like at some point, like I can't be the only one saying the thing out loud, because eventually it's going to just be like Nathan's the only negative one when I have tried my best.
You have been shockingly the most positive one this season.
Yeah. Well, I do what I can. I got to help a fellow ginger in the state of Florida. So it's tough out here. It's a tough assignment, if we're being honest. But I mean, with that, there's really not much. We'll get into it a little bit deeper in the Ponderosa later in the week, but there's really not like you got to win this freaking game. That's my overarching
must win.
This is a must-win game because you can.
Can you imagine doing the groundbreaking a week after losing to UAB?
And then you've got revitalized Navy just staring at you the next day. Like there's some tough conversations happening at Leroy Selman. Like, brother, you better win this game.
Yeah.
Like, at least like if you get the break speed off you against Navy, at least you have like the groundbreaking, and then you still have this stupid UAB game or FAU game as well. So we'll see. It's weird. This is the final October game for your South Florida Bulls. Just real strange. Bye week next week, and then a Friday night down in Boca, November 1st. So enjoy it.
Have I said fuck this schedule yet? This is almost like the most purposefully bad schedule I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's so weird. It's such a weird schedule. It like truly is. So you have a chance to basically go 3-4 through October, through 2 months of the season, which is fine. I feel like the Bucks lived in 3-4 in perpetuity for about 7 years during my youth, so it's nice to kind of get back to that. Win the freaking game. I'm gonna just chalk up everybody to last week. I won money, Memphis -9. So I'm gonna put that as a win for me. So I am now 6-0 on the bets, basically picking against the spread. Seth, the over/under is 13.5. Or excuse me, the spread is USF -13.5. It opened at 14, down to 13.5. The over/under is 57.5. Where are you going?
Under
57.5 for Seth. Smart man.
Right. The implied spread there, or the implied score, is like 35.5 to 22. Right? That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Do you think USF's getting a 35?
No. If Bryce Archie is the quarterback, absolutely not.
So 35 seems like a lot to ask. So I would, and then if they get to 35, they're probably just crushing UAB's offense. So let's go under. I think they can cover as well, but I'm not going to pick that.
It's already been bet up to 14.
Yeah, it's going up. UAB stinks.
And last time we did this, we got fucking skunked, by the way. Just like full disclosure.
No, I said Southern Miss stinks, and they stunk.
Right, yeah, they did stink.
And I said Bulls by 30 and was annoyed that they didn't hit that.
Yeah.
My alt line of 30 didn't hit. I'm not nearly as confident in that, Steeg, I'll let you go last. I don't want to break my streak. However, I don't see USF putting up enough points to win by 13.5. I'm going to take UAB plus 13.5. Mostly because I don't trust this USF offense under Bryce Archie to put up enough points to push the game out. Like, unless you're getting multiple defensive touchdowns, which is possible, I don't see it. Now, if it's Izzy Carter, possible. If somehow Byrum Brown actually does heal differently around here, then maybe. But I don't. With Bryce Archie, I don't see them being able to put away this, even if they're bad UAB team, because this, just as much as UAB is USF's worst team that they've played in a very long time, USF is also UAB's worst team that they've played basically since Alcorn, game 1 of the season. So, when two immovable objects, get in the rain together, it's
is this WrestleMania this year?
With the fact that Charlotte's now 3-3 and they've won 2 in a row before their bye week last week, it's possible.
Oh, we might have to bring it back.
This could be a WrestleMania.
Oh,
so Steeg,
let's see.
The floor is yours.
Let's get. How many cusses am I allowed to give in one episode?
4.
I'm at 2 right now. So
all right, so you got 2 left.
All right, let's get fucking stupid over.
Whoa.
No, I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, we've talked ad nauseum that yeah, we're probably gonna see a Jalen Kitna versus Bryce Archie, offenses playing against each other, which is just, oh my god, like, I want to throw up. Like, again,
Brian Gregory coaching this team.
If Bryce Archie, if you're listening, I love you, Bryce Archie's mother and father. You have produced a wonderful child. He is not specialized for this offense, and Jalen Kitna literally makes me want to throw up. However, if there is anything that I have learned from being inside of the college football world like this for the last almost 10 years, it is that when you have 2 backup quarterbacks in what is potentially going to be the most inept offenses playing up against each other, for whatever reason, because it happened last week when Ball State and Kent State played against each other, just fireworks happen. Just stupidity. Like, the best throws you'll ever see a USF quarterback make will happen this weekend. Like, that's where we're at. And I think UAB has like a fine running back. That running back's about to run for like 226 yards. We're gonna get over. Hopefully USF wins. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think UAB covers, but USF wins.
Yeah,
that'd be my.
I think UAB's defense is like woefully bad, like just unbelievably bad.
That's correct.
Like full on quitters. Like I don't think USF is only going to score 3 points.
Yeah, I'm on the podcast right now. I am going to look at these lines on Hard Rock. So I just went off at ESPN bet because that was what I had pulled up.
Another site had it like USF 16.
Jeez, Jesus Lapidus, guys, that is a lot of points. All right, so it's according to Hard Rock, man. Hard Rock, UAB is now a 14.5 win underdog. So if you do UAB spread USF winner, a $10 bet right now will win you $21. $100 bet, pretty good. $215. Here it is. I'm doing it.
It is 9:26 p.m. on Tuesday, October 15th.
And I'm not a rich man, so $20 bet. UAB plus 14.5. South Florida to win. Bet placed.
Oh,
There
he
we
did
go.
it. Where is?
And there you have it. With that said, 3:30 ESPN Plus. Do what you will. There we go. WrestleMania. I think it's official. I mean, 1-5 versus 2-4. Backup quarterbacks. Tell me how this isn't WrestleMania.
It might be. Do we go with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for UAB? Is that where?
Yeah, or
do we have to find somebody from Alabama?
Or Ultimo Dragon.
Oh, interesting. All right.
A little too much flair for UAB, but whatever.
We'll have to consult Nick Simon here.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, I hope everybody stays safe. Hope you start to recover mentally, physically, emotionally from the last 2 weeks. Stay safe. Be smart. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.